All right, so for this larger big tile, I do recommend Ardex X5. I kind of recommend this for almost all my tile installations. It really is a decent medium bed thin set that's going to bond well onto this. Now, the ratio of this is between 6 and 7 quarts. I'm going to go the full 7 quarts. You kind of want to make the consistency for this to bond well, you know, kind of loose. So make it as wet as you can. I'm going to go 7 quarts, and then we're going to be using a 1/2 inch trowel for the floor, and then we're going to be using a 1/4 by 1/4 to just thin set this mat down into place. For consistency, so that is pretty loose, but you want to do that so that you can get a good bond with your larger tile, and we're going to be putting plenty of thin set down. So let's go ahead and thin set our mat down. And I should mention that Mapei Eco Prime really makes a nice rough surface, so it's going to be really great for bonding thin set to. So it makes a world of difference having that stuff on here. So I should mention that this stuff is not really great for small mosaics. This is fine for this big tile that we're using, to use this mat. But if you were doing like small mosaics, you definitely want to use some floor leveler over something like this so that you can actually get a nice smooth surface. Smaller tile, just not going to work very well trying to get this to be flat enough to make it nice. But it works just fine for bigger tiles. Even 12 by 24s, you'd be fine. You just want to make sure that the entire system is embedded with thin set. That's the most important aspect about this. I just have to embed this in the thin set while I'm doing it, because this is going to be quite a mess. I'll just leave that out for now. All right, so these sensor wires, you want to just put them, you don't want to cross them over any wires. So try to bring them down. Put that one there. And we're going to bring this one over here. Okay. So that'll all flatten down once we get some thin set on here. So we're going to use a 1/2 inch U-notch trowel. We want to get plenty of thin set over all of this. Those big tiles, you don't want to have any dead spots underneath of them, so be generous with it. The biggest thing about heated wiring is that everything has to be embedded in thin set. All the problems arise is if there's not enough thin set underneath or over top of it. We're just going to basically skim this, and then we're going to trowel the back of the tile. So we'll just put our cover on here, put thin set underneath of that. Collapse those ridges. This is why you want it to be a fairly loose mixture, so that you can make sure that everything's well bonded. Okay, so make sure all the thin set's out of here. And I would just make sure that you put some shims underneath of this, make sure that that cover doesn't drop. It makes it sure it's even with the top of the tile. And we'll just pull those out after Honestly, we can just leave them in there. It's not really going to hurt anything. That's all nice and flush. Get all the thin sets out of here. Yeah, it's going pretty slick. If you have an oscillating tool, just wrap their sander adapter. Now they do make actual vibrators for tile, but I still haven't gotten one, so I'm just gonna make my own. And it just helps like collapse all the ridges because this is such a big piece of tile. I feel pretty confident with what I have here, but you never know. That should do it. Just kind of vibrates it a little bit. We're gonna use to keep the tiles in line is Mapei has their own line of twisting clip system, like a normal clip. Let's go ahead and put like a couple of these down the long side here. I'm gonna float the floor. This does take a lot of thin set. It's kind of amazing, really. So this is where this little scooper comes into hand. You can actually scoop the rest of this thin set out of this bucket efficiently. What a piece of So this is why I love T-Lock, because they are strong clips. And you can put a ridiculous amount of pressure on that and get this where you need it. Yeah, that's definitely nice and even there now. These are okay, I guess. I don't know. That's not a very strong clip. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That is pathetic. That is pathetic. I thought Mapei was in the towel industry. Forget that, man. That's ridiculous. You know, I've been using T-Lock Perfect Level Master for decades now, and I'm not going to change now, that's for sure. Because that's the worst thing that can happen, is that having those clips get stuck in there or break, and then you have no pressure against it. What an absolute disaster that is. These ones, I know I'm going to get that to be as tight as I need it, and I don't have to worry about it breaking. Sure makes it a mess when you have to take them out like that. All right. Floor leveler would have just been easier just to put another 1/4 inch layer over this stuff rather than messing around like this. I don't like this at all with, I mean, I never did like this way of doing it with the mesh and then thin set. It's just too much of a mess. It's even more of a mess with 12 by 24s, honestly. At least these big tiles are easy to, you know, kind of float over everything, but I think it's definitely worth the effort to just put a little bit of floor leveler down. Just want to make sure that this is well embedded with thin set. I'm sure this is triggering tile setters right here.
I mean, it's triggering me.
It's just such a mess doing it this way. I'm not doing that heated flooring system like that again. I forgot how much of a mess that is. You're not really saving anything. You're putting enough thin set to embed everything. It's like the same as having. All right, so that wraps it up for the floor today. If one thing I could go back in time, I would definitely floor level over the heated flooring system. That was very cumbersome putting thin set over it. I never did like that method, but it did allow me to get this all in a day. But honestly, I could have floor leveled it, waited about an hour and a half, and then started tiling, and it would have been much easier. And then with the amount of thin set that I put on here to be able to cover over that mat, it really didn't save any money or time for that matter at the end of the day. But all in all, I mean, it just is a little bit more time consuming, especially when you put in an event like that. This took me, probably about 5 hours total to do. That's with the cutting and doing the vent. Now, that vent over there, if you would have screwed that up, that would have cost you another piece. But it took about an hour just to cut that vent out. So make sure that you're charging enough for some of these type of items that are going to take up some time. But now we got a good floor in. Now we can go the next day, start doing some of the tile around the surround and get the grouting and getting all the accessories in.